It started on one of those quiet evenings where the house feels too big and the air feels too heavy. My wife sat on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, eyes glued to her phone. The TV played softly in the background. News, weather, something forgettable. I stood in the doorway for a long moment, the way husbands do when they're trying to gather the courage to ask for something simple that suddenly feels impossible. "You coming to bed?" I asked. She didn't look up, didn't blink, didn't move. "I'm exhausted," she murmured. 2 words, soft, tired, and sharp enough to cut through whatever was left of my pride. I nodded like I always did, like a man who had gotten used to being dismissed gently, like someone who kept pretending it didn't sting every single time. Later, I lay in bed alone, staring at the ceiling fan turning in slow circles. I could hear the faint tapping of her fingers on her phone screen downstairs. The distance between us felt bigger than the house, bigger than the years we'd spent trying, bigger than the promises we once whispered on warm summer nights. If you're older, if you've been married a long time, you know this kind of silence. It doesn't come loud. It comes quietly, slowly, almost politely. But it comes. The next morning, her office friend, Rebecca, stopped by. She worked in the same department as my wife, came by on her lunch break sometimes. Rebecca was different, though. Warm, present, the kind of woman who looked at you when you spoke, like your words actually mattered. She hugged my wife, asked about her day, and I watched them talk the way I used to talk with my wife, before life stiffened her shoulders, before exhaustion became her only language. When my wife left to take a call in the other room, Rebecca stayed at the kitchen table. She was finishing her coffee when she looked at me directly. "She says that a lot, doesn't she?" Rebecca asked. No hesitation, no dancing around it. I froze. My hand stopped mid-motion, dish towel still in hand. "Says what?" I asked, though I already knew. "I'm exhausted," Rebecca said quietly. "I hear her say it at work, too. About everything. About you." The honesty stung. Not because it was cruel, because it was true. I tried to shrug it off. "She works hard," I said. "We all get tired." Rebecca set her cup down slowly, her eyes never leaving mine. "There's tired," she said, "and then there's checked out. Those are 2 different things." Older folks, the ones who've been through decades of marriage, they recognize this moment. When someone finally says out loud what you've been thinking in the dark for months. When the truth you've been avoiding gets spoken by someone who has no reason to lie. I leaned against the counter, suddenly feeling the weight of every rejection, every dismissed touch, every night spent alone in a bed meant for 2. Rebecca stood up, walked closer, not too close, but close enough that I could see the concern in her eyes. "How long have you been invisible?" she asked softly. My throat tightened. I couldn't answer. She continued, voice gentle but firm. "I watch her at work. She's alive there. She laughs, she engages, she's present. Then she talks about going home, and it's like a light switches off." The words hit like stones in still water, rippling outward, disturbing everything. "You know what I notice about you?" Rebecca said. "You still try. You still show up. You still ask if she's coming to bed, even though you know what she'll say." She paused, and something shifted in the air between us. "You deserve someone who doesn't treat your presence like a burden," she whispered. And then she said it, the line that would change everything. "I'm wide awake." It wasn't flirtation. It wasn't seduction. It was a statement of fact. She was awake. Awake to me. Awake to what I'd been carrying. Awake to the man my wife had stopped seeing somewhere along the way. I stood there, dish towel still in my hands, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Seen. Valued. Human. Rebecca stepped back immediately, shaking her head slightly. "I shouldn't have said that," she murmured. "I just hate watching good people disappear." She left shortly after. My wife came back into the kitchen, phone still in hand, already talking about her next meeting. She didn't ask about Rebecca, didn't ask about me, didn't notice the earthquake that had just happened in our kitchen. That night, when she said, "I'm exhausted again," something inside me didn't break. Something inside me woke up, not to pursue Rebecca, not to betray my vows, but to recognize that I deserved more than this half-life. My wife and I eventually had the hard conversations, real ones, the kind older couples say they should have had years earlier. We're in counseling now. We're trying, slowly, carefully, painfully. But some nights, when the house is quiet and my wife finally reaches for my hand, I still hear Rebecca's voice, not as temptation, but as the wake-up call that saved me from disappearing completely. Someone out there is wide awake, even when the person you love has fallen asleep on you.